Welcome back to another class of Python for app development. In this class, I'm going to show you everything to get you started with knowing about grid layout. In my previous classes, I've also shown you about anchor layout, box layout, and all of those. And grid layout is another one of those layouts which you can use to make your app look a lot more better and work with the grids. It's also going to help you segment it up in a better way and how you want it to be. So make sure not to skip any part of this class because if you do, you might miss out on something very important and then face some hassle later on. And this is also one of the most important part of this classes because without the grids, you will not be able to create a better segment inside of your layout while app developing. So without any further ado, let's move on to our class by opening up PyCharm on our device and get on started with some coding. As you can see, I already opened up my KV file. But first things first is that we are obviously going to create our definition inside of our main py file so that we can pass it on. So if we want to pass it on, we have to go off to the main py file, and here inside of it, I'm going to create my grid layout extension or my class. So here I'm going to create a couple of space and I'm going to type in class, and inside I'm going to put in grid layout example. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that it looks good. Grid layout example. And inside, I'm going to put in the parentheses and I'm going to name it grid layout. Okay, so type in grid layout. So there we go. We have created ourselves the grid layout. To make sure to put in the colon, and I'm going to pass it on. And you're also going to import it right over here. So right after box layout or button, you can create yourself from kiwi.uix dot, let's say, grid layouts. Okay, so I'm going to put in grids layouts and I'm going to import it as my grid layout text. Okay, so there we go. We have grid layout. If this looks like it has been selected, it means that it is already working and has already been passed on. So now what you can do is inside we can put it or bypass it inside of the KV file. So we're going to go off of the KV file and we're going to change this into the grid layout. So let's say I'm going to open up that grid layout example. I'm going to copy this, Control C, and I'm going to paste it right over here. And now we have it bypassed. But what we're going to do is going to be making a second statement, and we're going to use the hash command so that we can pass it along. Okay, so here we're going to put in, or let's just go off to the main py file. And before that, we're going to put in this hash command. Okay, and we're also going to put the same thing inside this pass. So I'm also going to be putting in the hash over here, and you can pass it along. So as this is passed along, now we are going to be using the definition to use or, like connect this command into our definition. So to do that, we have to use another command, which is going to be @ and put in grid layout. Okay, now you can see as grid layout has been created, now this has been passed on. But you can also keep it just the way like I did it. If you don't want to use this hash, then you don't have to put this @ grid layout over here. But if you are using this hash commands and you want to pass it along to the KV file, then you have to use @grid layout. So both of them are going to be connected all together. Okay, so now as they are connected all together, now we are going to be customizing our, let's say, the grid layout. Okay, and we can also customize our buttons right over here. But on the first thing, what I'm going to do is going to be customizing my KV file. Okay, so if I want to customize my KV file, I'm going to, let's say, create myself up a button and I'm going to put in the text inside. So here I'm going to put in, let's say, button and colon, hit on enter, tab, and then I'm going to put in a text. So inside my text, I can put in, let's say, A. Okay. Now, one thing you might see that it might give me an error if I play this whole thing up. But if this doesn't show you an error, you will basically see that the A button or whatever button you are making is going to be at the left bottom. Okay. So if I just change it to Z and play out the whole thing, it's still going to be at the bottom. So make sure to always keep the alignment and indentation the same way. So in this same way, we are going to be creating a couple more of these buttons right over here. Let's say I'm going to put in button 2, text, and here I'm going to put in double quotation. I'm going to put in Y. I'm going to put in, let's say, button 3, button, colon, text, and the text should show me, let's say, X. Okay, so let's just play it up and you will basically find out it will be just overlaying another one of them. Okay, so there are basically 3 buttons, but we are still not seeing it. It's because it's overlaying each and every one. So if we want to customize the rows, or if we want to customize the way where we want it to be, we also have to put another command, which is going to be rows and columns. So what we're going to do is going to be hitting on enter, and you're going to start off with the hash command, and you're going to type in rows. Okay, just rows, and you're going to create another one, which is going to be for the column. So COLS is for columns. But yet we do not have the specific value to identify and present it where we want it to be. So to present it where we want it to be on the rows and columns, we are going to be using another like row of column or another row of, let's say, values. So for that, let's just say I'm going to put in cols. Cols is for column, and right after a colon, you can put in that specific value, whatever you want it to be. It could be 2, 3, 4. It's just basically up to you how you want to work with. So if I just put in 2 and then play it, you'll basically see now it has created 2 of these values or 2 of these columns. Okay, so as it has created 2 of these columns, what we can also do is create 3 columns. So if we just put in 3, it's going to be on 3 columns, and that is how it's going to show me. So there we go. It has shown me 3 columns and there's 3 buttons. If we put in 1 column and play it up, it's going to be presented on this 1 column method. Okay, now you can also customize the rows how you want it to be looking like, and you can also create more buttons to represent more buttons inside of your console or inside of your app. Okay, so for that, I'm going to be creating more buttons. Let's say I'm going to copy this whole thing, or let's just say I'm going to manually create them. Button, let's just say I'm going to create text, and here I'm going to put in, let's say, R. I'm going to put in button, colon, text, and here I'm going to put in O, and on the last button, I'm going to put in, let's say, Q. There we go, Q. And now if we play up the whole thing, this is how it should look like. Now we'll be able to customize the way we want to. If I put in 3, you'll basically see this is how it should look like. Okay. Now you might think that what if we want some spacing and if the spacing will work? Well, when you're using grid layout, spacing doesn't actually work, but you can try it on. You're going to type in spacing over here, type in 2. Let's just say I'm going to play it up. And you might see, there we go, we have a bit of spacing inside of it. Okay, so you're going to put in that specific value. You're going to put in 5, play it out, and there's going to be 5 dp pixels. Okay, you can also put in double quotation. You're going to put in 5 and then put in dp, and there's going to be 5 display pixels as the spacing. Okay, now one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you're using any Python below 2 or below 3, it's not going to be working with the spacing, just like I've told you. Okay, but it only works when you are working with Python 3.12. So keep that thing in mind and always try using Python version 3. It could be Python version 3.2, 3.5, 3.6, 8, 9, 12, whichever you want to use, but do not go anywhere below Python version 3. Okay, because when you use 2, it's not that complex, so it's just going to make it, a bit more confusing, and it's going to be, let's say, very complex. So now let's just cut off this line, and one thing what we're going to do is we are going to be creating the hash command over here. So there we go. I'm going to put a hash, and now I'm going to put in the row value. So if I put in rows over here, colon, And here I'm going to put in 2. So if I play out the whole thing, you can basically see it will not make any difference. But if we just reduce it, it's still going to be the same. And we have specific codes for basically anything. Okay. Now, right after our first button, we are going to be using size hint to fix it up. So right after text Z, I'm going to use my command size hint. Okay. So right after size hint, I'm going to put in, let's say 0.5, comma 1. And now if I play it out, you'll basically see there will it will not change anything, because if we want to change Z, we also have to change our button, which is right below Z. So let's just play it out again and let's check it out how it looks like. We also have to change out R. So what we are basically going to do is going to be copying this one into our R text. So let's just create another one, size, and we're going to put in, let's say, size hint, and you're going to put in 0.5, comma 1. Now, if we play it out, you'll basically see that the size of this column or the size of this button has been changed. So the same way you can also change out the other buttons. Let's say if I want to customize my X and my Q button, we also have to do that. So I'm going to do is going to be taking this size hint. There we go. I'm going to put in 0.6, comma 1. And we can also copy this, Control C, X, and then we have Q, which is the last one, paste, and now play it out. And you'll basically see this is how it should look like. Okay. Now we will also be able to use the none value. So if I put in the none value over here, and if we use the 6, if you play it out, you'll basically see it's going to make something like a segment over here. Okay. So you'll also be able to customize this one too. If I put in, let's say, none, and now if I play it out, this is how it should look like. Okay. So this is now being extended a bit more, or this button is being a bit more extended to fill up the area. But if this wasn't, or if I put any specific value over here, you would have seen that the Y and O would have taken up more space. You can also do the same thing on the height. Let's say I'm going to put in none on these. Let's say I'm going to put in none over here. And if I play out the whole thing, this is how it will look like. Okay. So you can see how simple it is to work with this, values, and also how you can use size hint to customize your own buttons inside of, your console. Now, what we can do is that we can use button layouts as example of our buttons right over here, which is being, presented right over here. Okay. So what we're going to do is that we have this Y button over here, and now we're going to do is going to be changing it using our button layout. So what we're going to do is going to be going down at the bottom, and we have our previous console or previous example, which is box layout example. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to be copying out this definition, Control C, and we're just going to do is going to be pasting it inside our button too. Okay. So just take it, copy this box example as our example of our definition. And I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to paste it out. And now if we play it out, you'll basically see it's going to take out that specific value and it's going to customize it. So what we can also do is that if we customize our box over here, let's say if I want to customize our label. So let's just say I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove it. And now if I play it out, you'll basically see C has been removed. Now over here, if I change this to horizontal, if I play it out, now the B is going to be horizontal, but we don't want horizontal. It looks better when it's vertical. Okay. So I'm going to put in vertical, and we can also change this over here. I'm doing all of this on my box layout example. So if I put in vertical, and if I play it out, this is going to show me this error. So let's just try putting it horizontal again. Over here, horizontal. Play it out, and you can see there's horizontal. We can also try out with vertical over here. Play it out, and you can see we have all of them into vertical mode. And we can also keep this one horizontal and keep that vertical at the same time. So if I just put in horizontal, it's going to be horizontal on the B buttons. Okay. So this is basically how you're going to customize it. And we also have a bit of spacing over here. So if we just cut out the spacing and if we just play out the whole thing, this is how it should look like. You can also do the same thing on A. We can also fix out the spacing on the A button. We can also remove that, play out the whole thing. And this is how it should look like. It's going to take the space of, whatever button here was. Now we can also change out this O value over here just the same way. So what we have to do is that we have to take out the box example, Control C, and we're going to go off to the O button, which we have over here, and we're going to paste it out. And if I just play out the whole thing, this is how it should look like. Now you can customize the box layout options. You can change the text. So let's say I'm going to put in V over here. And if I play out the whole thing, it's going to show me V with A2, A3, A4, B6, B7, B8. If we want to change out any specific button in case, let's say I want to change out B8, and obviously both of them are interlooped over here. So if I change B8 into something like ER, then it will also change at the same time. So what we have to do is that we have to change this B8 over here. Make sure you are on the box layout. And here I'm going to put in ER. Okay. So if I play it out, both of the buttons will change into ER. So you can see how simple it is to work with grid layout, how you can interloop both of them and play out these buttons and make sure that you have the exact type of result or the exact type of layout which you want to work with. So thank you for watching this video up till the very end and hope you understood about everything in this class. If you still have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out, and make sure to practice along from time to time because, when you do not practice it and when you do not try it on your own, you will not get the exact idea or the clear and vivid idea about how to do it. Okay. So thank you for watching this video again. And without any further ado, let's move on to our next class of Python for app development.